Hi, Dorothy.
Hi.
So, are you from Terre Haute, Dorothy?
Yes, I am.
Are you born here and raised here?
Yes.
You were baptized, and then you had also your Holy
Yes,
Communion?
I went to school at St. Margaret Mary's and made my first communion in first grade. Yes.
And then you also have your confirmation here.
Yes, my confirmation.
So, what was the church like? How did it look like when you first were in here?
It was a nice, homey church. It, I don't know how many people it held, but it was quite large.
Was there a lot of kids then at that time?
Oh, yes. I think there were like 20-some in my first grade class. And made my first communion and was confirmed probably a year or so after that.
So who was the pastor then when you were?
Well, it was Father Winnehalder, Hubert Winnehalder. And he was here for several years.
Mm-hmm. And you said that he used to hang out at your house?
Well, he did visit, but he was good friends with my grandfather, and they had a group that played cards together on Sunday night.
Okay, and can you tell us something about what you can remember about him, aside from playing cards?
Well, he liked to hunt, and he came from a little bit south of here in Indiana. I think it was around Lagodi, but I'm trying to think of the name of his parish, I don't remember the exact name of his little village where he came from. But he was here several years, and his sister used to visit him here, and she became good friends of ours too. And
now, what can you remember with your teachers in St. Margaret Mary? Are they all nuns? Or?
Yes, they were all nuns from the Sisters of Providence at St. Mary's, and they always were here at St. Margaret Mary's. And we had 4 classrooms. Each classroom held 2 grades.
Mm-hmm.
So it was first and second, and third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and seventh, and eighth.
Yeah, that's what Ted said. That there's just a line, like a thing that parts between the 2 grades. Is that?
There wasn't. Well, we just knew one side was usually one grade, and the other side was another grade.
Now, so aside from Father Winterhalter, you also have Father McLaughlin. What can you remember about
Father
him?
McLaughlin. He was here. He was here when they got ready to build this church, and he was a very nice man, kind of quiet, and at that time when he was here, there were several priests. We had an assistant. And they usually taught out at the Schulte when it was built. And at one time there were 2 or 3 assistants living here that taught us Schulte.
So, did you get married also in this church?
Yes, I got married here.
Where? Which part? I mean, which church? The one with the.
Yes, I got married in the old church that was in the original school building. Which is a school building now, or was the school building at that time.
Who officiated your wedding ceremony? I mean, the mass.
I'm not sure if it was Father Winnehalder, or we had an assistant by the name of Father Lyons that was here several years, and Father Weedoff, and
Can't remember.
Right
It's
now,
okay.
I can't remember. I got to think about that for a while.
What about Father Dede? What can you say about
Yes,
Father
he
Dede?
came after later on, and he was here a few years. And he made a lot of, at that time things were starting to change in the church, and he made some changes. And, that's about all I can remember.
Well, did you remember like the church set up differently?
Yes, I remember when the church was set up differently. I sure do. For several years it was like that.
Now, how about your kids? Did they go to school here too?
Yes, they went. They were baptized here. Well, yeah, I think Yes, I think I had 5 children, and they were baptized, and some of them were baptized here and some at Paris, Illinois. We lived in Paris, Illinois for a few years.
For a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Were they able to go to school in the...
Yes, they went to school here. Mm-hmm.
But not all of them? Or...
I think maybe they all went to school here, yes, before we moved to Paris for a few years, and then we came back here.
What drew your family to St. Margaret Mary?
Well, my father lived close by. I mean, we lived close by here, and my dad ran the service station across the street, which was a gas station. He opened it when it was brand new in probably 1935, something like that.
Wow.
And so we always lived close by, and
so you walked to church
we
here?
Walked to school and walked to church. It wasn't far at all.
Do you still walk to church?
Yes, I do.
Because you still live nearby,
That's convenient,
right?
yes. Very convenient.
What do you like most about St. Margaret Mary's Church?
Well, it's always been a home parish for me, and I love it. Always have and always will.
What are your most memorable moments as a parishioner?
Well, I remember when it was built, and this building that we're in today, and remember when we had our first Mass, and
In here?
yes.
What was it like?
Oh, it was a joyful occasion. And I remember one time having a confirmation class, and it was packed in here. I mean, there was only standing room available after the ceremony started.
Were you active in like the church activities, like?
Well, I was in the Mothers Club when the children were in school, and I worked also part of that time, so it wasn't always available to do as much as I would have liked to, but I tried to participate when I could.
Like, were you active? Do you normally attend the parish picnic or the reverse raffle?
Yes, I
before?
go to the reverse raffle, and I have attended the picnics. And
how much did it change through the years?
well, it's changed a lot because I think when you don't have children involved, that cuts down on the number of people that you know. And there's a lot of people I don't know that go to church today, but you get to know them when you.
No. How about your memories of the Lent and Easter preparation? How is it different? I mean, what's the difference now and before?
Well, Christmas was always a big occasion, and going to school here, we always had a big party at the last day of school, and the nuns and the priests were always very kind and tried to help the children all they could.
Do you remember the big tree outside? They said that they used to have a big tree outside that lights up during Christmas.
They had 2 of them, right? The rectory faced 7th Street. It was an old farmhouse. When they built, when they purchased this property, it was mostly trees, a lot of trees, and there was a big house and a circle drive, or semicircle drive off of Voorhees, and they had 2 big fir trees there that they would light up and have a crib set in between them every Christmas time. And Father Winterhalter was very into that, and they had it for a long time. And then out in front towards 7th Street, it was a lawn and trees. And right south of the church was a big brick house that was not owned by the church. But when they built this church, they tore that house down and enlarged their property and bought a couple lots on Center Street too.
Do do you still like recognize people that you go with before when you were?
Yes, I still know a few people, but I'm getting older and there aren't many of us left. So,
And yeah, I just heard that you after mass you usually hang out with some ladies that you go.
oh yeah, we have the ladies here and their husbands if they want. Go out on Saturday night after mass for something to eat
Dinner
and companionship and visitation. And
How
we have a
many-
good time.
Yeah, how many like approximately how many?
Well, I don't know. I'd say they're about 12 or 18, maybe.
And it's always every Saturday then?
Yes, about every Saturday. They seldom miss.
That's good. What got started? How did it start?
Gosh, I don't know. I think different ones would go and they'd ask others, and I think it just grew from that. I'm not sure. But that's the way I think it developed.
That's good. That's good.
So you remember the very first church then, the old farmhouse? Actually, we have only one picture of the very old first church, which was the farmhouse.
Well, the
Yes.
living room is where they had mass. And of course, I don't remember the early days, but I do remember Father Winterhalter was quite a hunter, and he had bear rugs and some of his what do you call them?
Antlers.
Trophies, I guess, that he
Yeah.
got from hunting. He had hanging on the walls, and I just really didn't quite like that.
Okay. And with the living, I guess it's in the living room where you had the mass. Typically, with a mass, how many people would be accommodated?
Well, there was probably, now this is things I've heard from my parents,
Oh.
because I don't remember. But it was probably like 20, as many as 25 people maybe. It was quite a large living room, and maybe 25 was probably a crowd at that time, because the parish was just developing, and a lot of these people had moved farther south from St. Joseph and St. Benedict's, and they felt like they needed a parish down here, so they started St. Margaret Mary's about the same time they did Sacred Heart. And so it's been going pretty well, all that time.
Yeah. On that one picture, there was one huge tree by the side of that house, and it was kind of the branches were overhanging the house. So do you still remember that house at
I
all?
don't remember that, but
Oh.
we did have a tornado come through. Oh, I was probably in maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school when that happened, and it took down a lot of trees in the yard and surrounding area, and chimneys off of houses, and garages, but it didn't take any houses in this area.
Okay. And how old were you when? So do you remember them building the schoolhouse?
No, I don't
No.
remember them building the house,
Was
the
already there.
schoolhouse. No, I don't.
Because this was the farmhouse. Then shortly after that, they built
Well, because
the
it must have been built in 1920. I guess.
1920. Yeah,
I
20.
imagine around that time, because I don't know when they're counting the development. I mean, I don't know if they count the first mass as when the parish started, or no.
Yeah, 1920 would be the
Yeah.
official, so because it will be our 100th year, will be 1920. So the schoolhouse was, I think they moved in the 5 years. It took them 5 years, I think, to finally move to the schoolhouse. And then.
Oh, 5 years after the
Yeah,
development of the
after the-
parish.
after
That's
the-
probably
yeah.
about right, because they probably had to get some money going to build it. And I don't know when it was built, but
So it was your grandfather that did the
yeah, it was
construction.
Green Brothers built it. And
What do you remember of any of those early years after the schoolhouse was built? what recollection do you have going to school and all that?
Oh, well, I always enjoyed going to school. And the sisters, they lived right close by us, and my mom used to help them get back and forth to St. Mary's, because they would make trips back and forth to St. Mary's, and sometimes, for a while, they didn't even live here. They had lived at St. Mary's and taught here, so it was quite a deal to get them. So they rented a house, I guess, nearby, right
The one
across the
across the
street,
corner, yeah.
yes, across 7th Street. In fact, it was the second house on the east side.
Yeah. Oh, it's not the corner house.
Well, it wasn't the
Because
corner.
there's now that
Then they bought later on.
bought the
They
corner
bought
house.
They bought the house on 7 and Voorhees, on the
Yeah.
corner, the 2300 block. I guess it's like 23 something.
Oh, okay. Because that's still in existence right now.
Yeah.
It's
And
right on the the northeast corner.
yes. So so that must be in the 1920s or so.
Oh, no, they didn't buy that convent until later on. It
Was this church already up when they bought that?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
It
So
was
later,
years later, because they took the nuns back and forth to St. Mary's for a while. I do remember that. And then they rented a house, like I say, across the street here. And then they bought, I think Father Winterholder talked somebody into buying it for the parish on 7th and right on the corner.
Okay. For the sisters to stay for their convent.
And they owned that a long time.
And how about when they were building this church? Maybe you remember more about that time when they were probably preparing for this church.
Preparing for
Yeah, when they were raising funds for the building of this church.
They had some fundraisings, yeah. I'm sure they did. I was a little young, I didn't participate in that, so I don't remember it, but I'm sure they did. And at the same time, Sacred Heart was building, so.
Was there a lot of excitement about the building?
People were anxious for it. They knew we needed it. We were kind of outgrowing and they needed the room for the schools. So when they took the church out of the school building, they made it into school rooms also.
So were you still going at that time? Going to school at that time?
Yes. Well, let me think. Yes, I think I was.
Because it's only up till 8th grade, right? When they have the school.
It was
and
up to 8th grade,
And then
yes.
high school is Schulte.
At that time, they didn't have Schulte. So, and they didn't have a Catholic school for boys in high school, but they had a Catholic girls' school at St. Pat's.
So that's where you went.
So the girls that could go went to St. Pat's. And it was on their second floor. Now the building's still there, but it's changed a lot.
Maybe the one next door to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
How about your grandkids? Are they going to do? How many kids do you have?
I had 5 children.
5 children. Do they live in town or are they somewhere else?
A couple of them do. A couple live out of town.
Do they still go to church here in St. Margaret Mary?
No, they don't. They are scattered around. I'm the only one at St.
They live
Margaret
in
Mary's.
Mary's.
One boy lives in Columbus, and another boy lives down by New Albany.
Okay.
Do you have any message for our parishioners?
Oh, well, I hope you love this parish like I do, and keep it in your heart.
Yeah.